So I made a video last week and shared some details of my healing, and a few people have asked me to share in more detail. So here goes. In 2012, I ruptured a disc in my spine, L4, L5, and it was really sore for months. I struggled to sit or walk for any length of time. I lay down as much as possible. It was the only thing that brought relief, that and a heat pack. I took a lot of painkillers and went to a lot of physio. And it changed my life quite drastically, because before that I'd been on lots of adventures. There were a group of us that we climbed Kilimanjaro and a mountain in Peru and a volcano in the DRC, and we'd booked to go and climb Mount Elbrus in Russia like 2 months after I had ruptured my disc and we had to cancel. And while it healed to some degree, it never healed completely, and I couldn't walk any distances. I kind of had chronic pain all the time. And I learned to manage it, and I learned to live with it. But everyone kind of knew me as got a funny back. In 2014, I had a boating accident and broke my back. I fractured T11, T12, damaged S1, L1. There was a tear and damaged all the facet joints in the lower part of my spine. I was in agony. I've never known pain like that. I was misdiagnosed by my physiotherapist, who said it was likely a ruptured disc and that it would heal within 6 to 8 weeks. So I just did what I could to manage the pain. I was on a lot of painkillers and anti-inflammatories and was going to physio, I don't know, almost every day, just trying to manage the pain. And on the day that it was 6 weeks, I woke up and just burst into tears because I couldn't take the pain anymore. So I persevered, and eventually, after 3 months, I begged the doctor to send me for an MRI, and they found out that my injuries were so severe. I then went to a neurosurgeon who wanted to operate immediately. I was nervous. I was really scared of operating. So I went for a second opinion, and that neurosurgeon believed that if I had persevered for 3 months and managed, that maybe I should try not have any surgery, and gave me some really strong medication, which helped a lot. It didn't fix anything, but it helped me manage the pain, and so I opted for that rather than surgery, because I believed that I could heal myself. But the medication that I took would make me fall asleep really, really early at night and wake up in the morning very tired and depressed. And so it was not good for me emotionally, and so I stopped taking the medication, and I just lived with the pain. And the neurosurgeon told me that I would have that pain forever, and that I would just have to learn to manage it. And so for the next 4 years, I was going to physiotherapy, biokinetics, osteopath, chiropractic, massage, every day for 4 years, just to manage the pain. Nothing improved, but it helped me manage the pain, and I was taking painkillers and anti-inflammatories, and I tried cannabis oil, and all of it helped a little bit with the pain, but nothing could heal it. And it became a full-time job, and it became my identity. I couldn't work, I couldn't sit for very long. All I wanted to do was lie down as much as possible. And I did as much as I could on mindset. I changed my perception. I got to see the perfection of it. I got to see all the benefits and how it was serving me. But still, I couldn't heal it. And I did everything I could, matter to matter. And it got me quite down. I started to get quite depressed and hopeless. And then I found Dr. Joe's work. And I was inspired by his story, and I was inspired by so many people's testimonials. And so I immersed myself in the work. I read the books, I watched the videos, started doing the meditations, and then I did the online course. And then I took it really seriously, and I decided I would go to an advanced. And I started doing the meditations almost every day. I skipped a few days, but almost every day, as well as listening to videos and reading the books and watching testimonials. And I mainly did balancing of the energy centers, Bowtech 1 and 2, maybe 3, I can't remember. I did that every day, most days, because I'd heard that Bowtech is the one that is really good for healing. I also did tuning into new potential sometimes, and walking meditations I would do once a week, sometimes twice a week. That was for about a year leading up to Brighton. And while I didn't feel myself heal physically in any way, I started to change, and I started to access a lot more joy. I knew the work was working. And I knew that I would go to Brighton and come back changed somehow. I hoped that I would heal, and I even had the idea that maybe one day I could make a testimonial about my healing, and inspire other people. And here I am. But I knew even if I didn't heal in Brighton that I would change and access even more joy. And I hoped that was enough. I had hoped. I went to Brighton. By the time I got there, I was in agony. Oh, and 3 months before Brighton, I had another injury and I fractured my coccyx. And again, I couldn't sit. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I kept hurting myself and damaging my spine even more. And I had a huge amount of fear of being an old woman, even paralyzed. I didn't understand why I was hurting myself so much. I knew I was playing a role somehow. And I was really scared and in a lot of pain and feeling sorry for myself as well. And I didn't want to be a mom whose children knew that define me as having a sore back, as I defined myself. Anyway, I went to Brighton. By the time I got there, I was in agony. I had to have a long-haul flight from South Africa, so flying was very difficult on the spine. I was in pain, and I'd got permission to lie down during the meditations. And when my team leader replied that actually Dr. Joe wants us to sit as much as possible and there's times to lie down, I nearly cancelled my trip because I was in so much fear about sitting in that pain. I just didn't think I could. So the course started, and on the very first meditation we did, one of my intentions was, or one of my hopes was, that I would actually be able to feel energy in my body. I didn't know what that meant or what that felt like, but it was something that I'd hoped for. And during the very first Bowtech, by the time we got to the heart center, I didn't feel anything in the lower energy centers, but from the heart center up, I felt energy start to move, and it was incredible. And I was moving my head, and I just knew that my spine was being rewired. I knew that I was starting to heal. It was incredible. But it was a long day, and I think I was very resistant. I wasn't conscious of it at the time, and by the end of the day I was really in a lot of pain. And I went to my team leader, Bhavna, and I said, I don't know what to do, because Dr. Joe said, those of you that are lying down, you're letting your body win, and I can't sit, I'm too sore. And she told me to take it one moment at a time and just to listen to my heart. But she also said that I'm running the program, I'm still running my program. And I did not want to hear that, but I really needed to hear that. And I knew she was right. And so I went back to my room and I cried, and I was really feeling sorry for myself. I was really sore. And then I looked myself in the mirror and I made a decision. And I made a decision with more energy than was keeping me in that position. I just decided it's enough. I'm going to do everything I can. That's why I was there. That's why I'd come to the course, and I was going to give it my all. And from then on, I sat. No matter how sore I was, I sat through the meditations, and I persevered. And I kept acting as if I was already fine. I didn't tell anybody how sore I was. Nobody in my team knew that I was injured and that I was sore. And I started to get slowly better and better. The pain started to ease. And then we came to our first coherence healing. And my heart was so wide open before that healing. We were walking around that room and the energy was just so strong in my body. It was insane. And by the time we formed our groups of 8 and held hands, the minute we connected, the energy that shot through me, it was like a bolt of electricity, and I was actually flung off my feet. And fortunately there were 2 men either side of me holding my hands. And so I didn't fall, and one of the team leaders ran up behind me and kind of grounded me, put their hand on my heart and said, just wait, until the Healy came in, and the Healy came in, and I shook through the entire thing. The energy in my body was insane. It was one of the most incredible experiences to give healing, and to have that experience of one heart, one mind. And I knew that night that I had started healing. I was extremely grateful. And the next morning we did our first pineal gland meditation. And I woke up and didn't know how I was going to do 4 hours. But the minute it started, I gave it my all with the breath, and the energy started in my body, and my body started shaking like never before. I felt the energy centers in the first, second and third energy centers. I finally felt energy there, and my body was going crazy, and I shook for the entire 4-hour meditation. I was gone, but I know my body shook the whole time, and when the meditation ended, I still couldn't come out of it, and didn't want to come out of it because I knew that I was healing. And so I stayed in the room, and the room emptied out, and I stayed. And I was aware of eventually staff coming and moving chairs around me and placing things back. And eventually I thought, I better come out of the meditation. And so I did, and I went back to my room. And I continued shaking on my bed. I sent some WhatsApps, and I had something to drink, and I thought maybe I could ground myself. But the shaking continued. It was a bit scary, but I just knew I was healing. And I went back to the hall, and I spoke to one of the team leaders, and I said, I can't stop shaking. And she said, do you want to? And I said, no. And she said, well, then don't. And so I sat on the side of the room for the rest of the day, and I shook the entire day. The energy in my body was just insane. And I'd have to let it stop every now and then because I was exhausted. And then at lunchtime I found out that I had been chosen for a healing. And I was humbled and grateful and overwhelmed. And I nearly said, give it to somebody else, because I knew I'd started healing. But there was also a part of me that knew I needed to be worthy enough to receive it, and that I had been given a gift, and I had created this and dreamt of this moment and manifested it, and why would I at the moment have been given it, turn it away? And so I didn't say anything. But just before my healing, we had our challenge activity, and so it had been an incredible day. And the one thing I was terrified of was heights, just absolutely terrified. And so we got to the challenge, and I was in the right space, and I saw this tower, and I thought, please God, not that. And my team leader said, you over there. But the night before, we'd been asked to fill out forms, and people asked us if we had back issues, could we please write it at the top of the page? And I was a little bit confused because, yes, I had back issues, but I decided I'm no longer that person. 2 nights before, when I made that decision, I decided I'm moving forward and I'm not that person anymore. And so I was scared to not write on the form that I have back issues, because I didn't know what the challenge involved. But I made a decision that night to leave it out and not say that I have back issues, and to decide the next day when I see the challenge. And when I saw that tower, and I was told to go towards the tower, to jump off the tower, I was terrified. And my team leader still told some of the staff to watch two people behind me because they had back issues, and to just watch them when they were coming down. And it made me even more scared because she didn't tell them that I had back issues because I hadn't put it in my form. And I surrendered. And I tried to stay in a heart space. But halfway up the tower, I just went into a huge amount of fear. Just the heights, just the height made me terrified. And then I made a decision that I'm going to jump off, and even if I'm paralyzed, if that's my destiny, then so be it, but I'm not staying stuck in this fear anymore. That I'm going to surrender to whatever the plan is. And I slowly moved up to the top of the tower, and then I couldn't jump. The fear was huge. And then I thought about all the people that I would inspire, particularly my family and the women that I work with, the women that I want to coach. And I decided to do it not only for me, but for them. And so I jumped. And by the time I got down to the bottom, I was hysterical. I was in tears. I think my body had just flooded with adrenaline, but it was incredible. And we had to rush back to the room for our healing. And the experience of being a healee is just impossible to put into words. Just knowing and being worthy and being willing to receive. And I knew I had to get out the way and not try and do anything, and just surrender. And I mean, I'd been doing that all day because I'd been shaking so much, and I was shaking before I even went into the room for the healing. And my heart was so wide open, and all I wanted to do was give all the healers love, and I was trying not to do anything because Dr. Joe said you don't need to do anything. But when I lay down there and I looked at all those 8 people, I thought my heart was going to explode. And I opened myself to love. And I felt a download of love unlike anything I've ever felt. Like it was pouring into me, and my body shook, and I cried, and it was just an incredible experience. And all I wanted to do was just give love back. And so that's what I did. And at the end of it all, I was pain-free. I'd forgotten what it felt like to feel free. And I don't know if I've ever felt that much love for myself or for the world. It was incredible. And then the next day, the third coherence healing, I was a healer once again, and it was so incredibly powerful. One of the girls that had got up on stage and given a testimonial, a beautiful girl, she ended up being our healee. And the night before, Dr. Joe had said, I want you to ask yourself what's left. And the only thing that was left for me was just even more joy, if that was even possible. And in that healing, just absolute joy flowed through us. And our group, all 8 of us and the healee, just couldn't stop laughing. And some team leaders were asking us to be quiet, but it was just, we were filled with so much joy. And the more our healee laughed, the more we laughed. It was just a magical experience to feel this joy flooding through us. And at the end of the healing, Dr. Joe told us all to embrace. And when one of the other healers hugged me, again I felt this incredible jolt of electricity flow through me, and I again lost control. And they had to lay me on the ground, and I don't know how long I was there. Dr. Joe was ending the event, and I was getting another healing. And I don't think it stopped. So I left the event pain-free. I told my family my back is healed, and I don't think they quite knew what to think of it or make of it. I don't think they believed it. And I think it took them months to see that I really am healed. I don't need to go to physiotherapy anymore. My back's not sore anymore. I can do things I couldn't do before. I can work more. I have way more joy. Not only did my back heal, but emotionally and spiritually, my heart is just so wide open, and my relationships are incredible, and my children are inspired, my husband's inspired, and I mean, I have teenage boys and a younger daughter, and they all are learning and open to learning. And my son, 17 years old, needed surgery at the beginning of the year for his teeth, and he refused. He just said, I'm going to heal myself, Mom. I'm just going to meditate and heal, and he has. And he came home the other day and said, Mom, I finally know what I want to do with my life. He's had no clue. And so we've just left it, and he came home and said, Mom, I want to do what Dr. Joe does. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. So our energy affects people around us. It's what I live for. It's what I wanted as a mom. To make a difference in my children's lives. And so here I am making this testimonial, which was a dream of mine. That maybe I could share about my healing. And so I'm eternally grateful. There's so much more, and I'm sure I've forgotten. But my heart is full. And I'm so grateful to Dr. Joe and to his team and to all the people that do this work and that inspired me, and all the testimonials and the support in the groups. It's just phenomenal. So from my heart to yours, thank you, and I love you.